Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's April the 7th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined today by Izubee Charles and Matt Shodell as we discuss the news of the day. And we will start with the Canes football team because they had another spring practice yesterday. A lot of people out there watching. So I'm assuming some of our listeners were out there and got a chance to see some of the progress that the team is making this season. But I'll tell you where I felt the progress was most evident, and that was when we had a chance after practice yesterday, guys, to talk to the defensive coaches. What an impressive 15, 20, 25 minutes that was. None more so than Jason Taylor. I mean, my goodness, like, can you imagine Jason Taylor recruiting a top defensive end in America and not winning in that recruiting battle, just on listen to his philosophies, what he brings to the table, what he instills in his players, his devotion to the job. Here's a guy that's a Hall of Fame coach, and I point blank asked him at the beginning of the interview. I said, Jason, why are you doing this, man? It's like 16, 17, 18, 19-hour days, year round. You got to go recruit kids. Not too many of your colleagues who wear those gold jackets from Canton would commit to this type of daily grind and job. But one thing, guys, I think you would agree, and Izubee, I'll start with you. Jason Taylor, he's all in.
Yeah, it was awesome having the chance to speak to Coach Jason Taylor. And just one of the funny things that I mentioned to Gary yesterday morning after we spoke with him, it was like he's talking about one of the players. Like, yeah, he's a skinny guy, but hey, I was a skinny guy too in the league, and they still call me skinny in Canton, Ohio. So I thought that was really cool. He's a really charismatic guy. And, when Gary asked him, hey, why are you doing this? He said, hey, it's not going to be easy, but if it was easy, everybody else would be doing it. So I'm ready for the challenge ahead. And that's what you love to see out of a coach, a guy that doesn't need to be doing this, but is out there working hard on recruiting. Chelsea said, if I have to go places that are cold, hot, wherever, I'll be there across the country recruiting some of the top guys. Like I mentioned a few shows ago or a few weeks ago, that it's hard to beat that gold jacket pitch. Not many coaches can walk inside your house, shake your parents' hand and say, hey, I have a bus in Canton, Ohio at the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame. So just talking from him today, talking to recruits today. I've been on the phone with a couple guys. They love Coach Jason Taylor. He's putting in the work, and he's ready to commit to the University of Miami and be that guy to recruit some of the top defensive end talents in the country to Miami.
Izubee, you're a millennial. I mean, so you can answer this question. Does Canton, Ohio, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, does that mean anything to these kids?
Oh, 100%, 1,000%. I mean, I don't even have to mention it to some of the guys I talk to, and they say, hey, a Hall of Fame coach. I think someone said a Pro Bowl coach. I was like, yeah, he's up on Hall of Fame too. So, like, just having that guy, there's not too many people that can say that's in your house recruiting you. Hey, I'm in the NFL Hall of Fame. At the end of the day, that's the goal of all these kids, to be in the NFL, to be Pro Bowlers, and eventually, if you're good enough, be in the Hall of Fame. So I feel like that has a big, big effect on how kids will view Jason Taylor as a coach when they say, hey, I can teach you what I know. I'm in the Hall of Fame. Not too many guys can say that. So I feel like that is a big, big recruiting pitch that he should use. And if I was him, I would throw that Hall of Fame gold. I'd wear the gold jacket to some people's house and say, hey, you want one? Come to mine and play for us.
We might be able to arrange a gold jacket for you, Izubee. We could probably find one somewhere. I mean, if we go to one of those malls that Matt Shodell shops at, Mayfair, Aventura Mall, maybe we could probably find a gold jacket that you could wear around too. I like having you on the show with us because I don't have to talk to Matt at all if I don't want to. I can just keep this conversation going with you. So let's keep doing it. Coach Adai showed a side of himself yesterday that we had never seen before, in my opinion. He's really passionate, really opened up quite a bit. And it was part of the reason why I left the complex yesterday feeling pretty good about the direction that Mario Cristobal has taken this defensive staff. Like I know Adai is a holdover from last year, but he was, to me, not the same guy that was there last year working under Kevin Steele. Am I crazy? Am I crazy? Like, and Matt, I'm just kidding. We'll let you comment on this too. I mean, like, he seemed to me like way looser and comfortable speaking, and even I think threw a F-bomb in there somewhere and apologized for his language. And he just seemed like a lot more engaged in what's going on this year than he was a year ago. Go ahead, Matt. You take that one at first.
Well, I don't want to talk about Adai. I want to talk about the gold jacket that Gary wears to Hooters. Listen, Adai was fine. I thought Jason Taylor was really the more interesting of the two, because we talked to Adai last year. I don't think he was that different this year. He didn't say anything. Like, literally, you ask him, he teases us. He says, I have a pretty good idea who the standouts are at cornerback. And Gary's like, who are they? And he's like, I'm not telling you. That actually happened. So I'm going to go back to Jason Taylor because he was awesome. And Gary tried to blow me off with the Jason Taylor thing, but he's not going to be successful doing that because he's never successful doing these things with me. So I fell in love with Jason Taylor when he said, it ain't no fun when the rabbits got the gun. That's my favorite expression of all time. I use that on a daily basis. And it seems like he does too. I use it when I go crab hunting. He apparently uses it when he's out in the Everglades, hunting for whatever he hunts for, apparently rabbits. But he actually used that in relation to recruits, which Izubee was excellent at breaking down how important it is to have a guy like Jason Taylor doing it. And, Gary really tried to hone in on he basically said to Jason Taylor, this is why Gary didn't want me to talk about it, because he knows what I was going to say. Gary basically said to Jason Taylor, you're a millionaire. Why are you doing this job? Like, Gary asked that like 3 different ways.
Flying all over the country, doing autograph sessions and making way more money.
Right. Gary basically asked 3 different times, like, why are you here talking to us?
One time.
Why are you recruiting, these guys? You could be doing something else.
Why are you doing this? Like, what made you decide to do this?
Right.
And he answered it the way I thought he would answer
right.
it.
And the whole rabbits got the gun thing, he was talking about how he used to be that guy where he wouldn't take your phone call. Now he's on the opposite end of it, where he calls recruits and they won't take his phone call, which is sort of funny. That's where the whole rabbits got the gun thing, came from. So I love that. And look,
he admitted he doesn't answer his phone.
Yeah. And listen, Jamil Adai, I was frankly, I don't sugarcoat things in this show. Izubee is always positive and happy. I'm always miserable and negative. We're the perfect foil for each other. And Gary's just delusional. So between the 3 of us, we got every emotion covered. But with
I knew I made a mistake giving him the microphone. I knew it. You and I should have just taken the whole show ourselves.
Jamil Adai, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I was extremely disappointed in what happened with his unit last year, okay? Extremely. And this is a guy who came from Georgia, and everything was supposed to be, amazing and improved. And the defensive backs unit, let's face it, wasn't like that bad the previous few years, especially considering they lost a lot of recruits. They hadn't gotten a lot of guys they wanted, but the results on the field weren't terrible. And then Coach Adai comes in, and I'm trying to find I have the numbers here. They're coming up here right now. So last year's defensive back group, which had an NFL guy at cornerback in Tyreek Stevenson and 2 future NFL safeties starting, somehow they ranked number 101 in team passing efficiency defense and number 79 in passing yards allowed per game. That's out of 130 teams. Like, that's really bad. So I don't know who else to blame except the coach, So I'm glad that he's much happier, Gary. I'm glad that you felt like he was on Valium for the interview, but like, I want to see it. I want to see it.
Maybe he likes to scheme better.
I want to see it. Kevin Steele knows what he's doing, okay? I want to see it. His unit is going to be the one that's left on an island all year this year. And to me, if he doesn't have these guys ready, and he kept saying these guys aren't, the whole interview that you think was so great, he kept saying, my guys aren't close to being ready. My guys are terrible, is basically what he's telling us. Even Marquise Williams, he's like, I don't want him to think he's doing well, but he's doing well. I mean, I don't know if that's the best attitude to have with your players, is to constantly never praise them, but whatever, that's his attitude. Maybe he's right. Maybe you don't want guys thinking they're any good. but they need to perform like they're good this year because under Lance Guidry, okay, the safeties are going to be blitzing, the linebackers are going to be blitzing, the defense linemen are going to be dropping in coverage, and the cornerbacks will be on their own a lot. And if he doesn't have this cornerback unit on point, it's going to be a major, major problem. The same way the offensive line was that held back the offense last year and made this one of the worst offenses in the nation. If his cornerbacks group isn't ready, he will make Lance Guidry's defense, and Lance Guidry's a great coordinator, he will make Lance Guidry's defense look average to far below average. So all the pressure in the world's on Jamil Adai. I'm glad he looks so happy and relaxed to you, Gary, but he should be, essing his pants, as Jamil Adai would say, since Jamil likes to curse so much, according to Gary.
No, he just had one F-bomb. That was all. But I thought it was kind of cool. I liked how candid he was. I liked how relaxed he was. I thought he was way more relaxed than we saw of him last year. The few times we talked to him last year, I thought he was very uptight. It just seemed much looser to me, happier. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm just reading tea leaves from a 7-minute conversation that we had with him. I mean, it just seemed different to me. And I thought it was different in a positive way. And I mean, like I said, I have come out of this spring feeling relatively good about the way that Mario is taking this defensive staff. Now, okay, we also spoke to Derek Nicholson yesterday, and I'll be honest with you, when I heard, what? You're bringing a Florida State guy, like a Florida State mainstay here to Coral Gables to coach the linebackers at Miami? Mario Cristobal, have you lost your mind? Okay, that was my thought when it happened. Man,
it wasn't your thought. You literally said that to him the second he got on the podium. You're like, why are you here? You're from Florida State. What was going on with you? What was going on? What happened with you yesterday? What happened to you, Gary Ferman, yesterday?
I was having a good time, man. So, but I mean, after talking to Derek and hearing what he had to say, I mean, man, he's all in. I mean, he might, still have the Bobby Bowden posters in his bedroom.
Oh my God.
I'm sure
did you break into his bedroom also? Mario, I know, already has a restraining order. Do you also break into Nicholson's bedroom now?
I'm just guessing that his wife hasn't taken them down. He had them and has had them for many years. Okay, even though he was at Louisville, he was coaching at Louisville. Like, I don't think that he had Scott Satterfield posters up in his room when he was coaching at Louisville. I feel fairly comfortable that the Bobby Bowden posters, may he rest in peace, love Bobby Bowden. I'm telling you, he still has those up in his bedroom. But listening to him, he's all in. I mean, he couldn't have made a stronger statement. Izubee, you were there. What were your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I like Coach D-Nick, as they call him. One of the things that stood out to me, though, was when he talked about, someone asked him about, hey, just what are your experience playing against Miami? He's like, my first college play, I ran down the field on a kickoff and missed a tackle on Devin Hester. So I thought that was pretty funny that, that's one of his memories from Miami. But no, when he talked about his position group, he was saying, hey, he wants his guys to be tough, physical, and, get their nose on the football. So D-Nick, he gave me a great first impression, real energetic guy, real funny guy. So I feel like the players would love to play underneath him. And that's kind of what we've heard from talking with Corey Flagg and Francisco Malgo, that the guys like playing underneath him. And playing underneath the coach that you really like, I feel like going on the field, you want to play a little bit more. Obviously, there's a coach that you don't like. It's, okay, but the guys really like him. And I see why, just off his energy, off his how charismatic he is. So first impressions, D-Nick, I give him an A+ after talking to him yesterday.
And then the guy I felt sorry for was Coach Joe Salavea, the defensive tackles coach. I mean, his best guys, Leonard Taylor's not participating in spring practice. His next veteran guy, he called him Double H. Like, I don't know. I think he's a little confused. He clearly is a WWE fan, because WWE has Triple H. Well, Harrison Hunt, he calls Double H. I mean, he's got a wrestling nickname now. He's been missing this spring. So, they're playing with, Gore, the transfer from Georgia State. What's the other transfer's name that they're messing around with?
Dean.
Yeah, Dean from Purdue.
Or as Gary calls him, Double D.
Double D. Yeah. Listen. The defensive tackle position right now might be the most challenged on the team. I mean, now that they've shored up the offensive line, they will be in the portal here in a couple weeks looking for defensive tackles. There's no doubt in my mind. But, so Joe's got to follow these other guys. And, he did okay. He held his own, but his message certainly was not as radiant as the other guys for understandable reasons, Matt.
Oh, me. Listen, Dean and Gore do not look like, primetime defensive tackles. They just don't. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's very small. So, they got a problem at defensive tackle. And to me, if the spring game rolls around and if the offensive line, first team offensive line isn't dominating, that would be a really, really big red flag to me because they're basically all backups. Jafari Harvey is out also on top of the guys you mentioned, Akeem Messidor, I'm not sure will be going in the spring game. He just came back a week ago off injury. And why would you want to risk him getting re-injured, right? It makes no sense. So the offensive line has to dominate with that first team. They should dominate with that first team. And if they don't, I'll be worried. And since you didn't ask me about D-Nick, he did have one quote that I wanted to mention because, and listen, he seems like a great coach. Again, I'll believe it when I see it type deal, especially at linebacker where it just was a real mess last year. I do think linebacker in particular will be much improved this year because it can't be any worse. And, Francisco Mauigoa will, I don't think he's going to be an ACC first team or second team guy. I think he'll be good enough, and I think he will start. And I think Keontre Smith might be a standout this year, too. Chase Smith, when he comes back from injury, if he ever does, I think he can be really good. And then you have Wesley Bassane. So, they have enough guys. But he was talking about one of the freshmen. He was asked about Bobby Washington. And he said when he walks out on the field, this is the quote. He says, when he walks out on the field, he sticks out like a sore thumb. He thought that was a compliment. In real life, for those that understand what sticking out like a sore thumb is, like that's a bad thing. Like you do not want to stick out like a sore thumb. Like when somebody is a humpback, right? Like the humpback, not a whale, like a hunchback of Notre Dame type deal. Like he sticks out like a sore thumb. You don't want the hunchback of Notre Dame on the football field. So that was my favorite moment of that interview. It wasn't quite up there with shooting rabbits like Jason Taylor was doing, but I did enjoy that sentence from D-Nick.
Now, you bring up an interesting point, and I know you didn't even realize you were doing it, okay? Everybody wants to know, is the team looking better, okay? And we'll say, well, the offensive line is going to be better. The offensive line is looking better. But you just made a great point, for a change, that, what are they going against in practice? And they've got some decent ends out there, no argument. But is the offensive line here in spring drills getting a good enough look at what it's going to face during the season to where we have legitimacy in saying that the O-line is going to be much better? Are they being tested, Matt, by what is there right now?
Well, I would like you to do a drug test right now because I can't remember you ever listening to me before. Did you take your ADD meds this morning? Is that what this is? You took 2 pills instead of 1.
Ourselves.
You took 2 pills instead of 1 this morning, Ferman. I'm glad you listened to me. This is not new news. I've said it several times in Good Morning CaneSport, believe it or not, that it's hard to tell in the spring when the offense and defense are going against each other. Is when one unit does well, does that mean the other is bad? When both are doing the same back and forth, does that mean both are great or both are terrible? I've said this, not a million times, but I've said it enough to where if you had taken the extra pill that day, you would probably remember I've said it. In this particular case, yeah, we know the defense is not a top-line defensive line right now because they're missing everybody who is supposed to be good. They have a depleted depth. They have guys who haven't really played much. So unless, you think Cyrus Moss, who still looks like a twig, even though he's, apparently put on a little bit of weight in the last 2 weeks, according to Jason Taylor, that's great. And by the way, that was another great moment from Jason Taylor is his message, because he looked apparently somewhat like Cyrus, a shorter version of Cyrus Moss when he was in college and even early in the pros, and they were trying to get him to 245 pounds, Jason Taylor, and he couldn't get there. And finally he said, F it, I'm going to stay at 240 or whatever, or 235, and just make plays on the field. And it seems to work out fine for him. So he can literally say to Cyrus Moss, don't get down on yourself because you're not gaining weight. Just make plays. Just make plays, So hopefully that resonates because Cyrus has a ton of upside. But yeah, so anyway, listen, we're talking about a true freshman, Ruben Bain. We're talking about Cyrus Moss. We're talking about, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is Nicely Kelly full go, or is he nicked up? I think he's full go, right?
He is. Messidor's out there.
Yeah, Messidor's out there, but I think Messidor's not really doing everything just yet. So that's really your four main ends right now to me. And on the interior, I mean, they're talking about Ahmad Moten is playing more, which is, I don't know what that means for anything. But, got Ahmad Moten on the interior, the two transfers on the interior who have not impressed me, and Jacob Lichtenstein is out there. Like that, yeah, that's like your four guys, the interior, unless I'm missing somebody. I think Joshua Horton, when he comes in, by the way, is going to be a difference maker. I keep hearing whispers behind the scenes that they really think this kid can. Most defensive tackles can't play in year one because they're just not big and strong enough. They don't know enough technique. They don't know enough. You got to be able to get pad level very low. You really have to be able to hold your point of attack. They think this kid can do it in year one. So that'll be interesting to see. Apparently this guy's like already looks like a third year college guy. And that would be huge because that would, if that's true, that would somewhat take the pressure off the portal need. Because to me right now, they've gotten sort of two guys in the portal that I don't think are major difference makers. Forgive me, all the fans out there that hate Matt Shodell, the hater. So basically you got Leonard Taylor and a bunch of other guys. Jared Harrison-Hunt, if he can stay healthy, I think he can be a starting defensive tackle and be fine. But he just has never stayed healthy. So it's hard to say he will continue to stay healthy. And so, yeah, you need to go back in the portal to me. You need to go back in the portal. But if Horton's going to be that good, it's not as big a deal because you can get by maybe with Gore and Dean as your third down defensive tackles. This is all sort great. Of muddle your way through if everyone stays healthy.
This is all great, but my question was: Are we getting a good read on how good the offensive line is or is not with what they are going against right now?
No, of course. I mean, you can ask Izubee too, but of course not. I mean, Izubee knows football. Like if you're going against, like if you're a football team and you're against a really bad football team and you dominate them. Like, you should do that. If you don't dominate them, then you just know you're not real good. Right now, they're going against a not real good defensive line. So, yeah, you better dominate them or else you're just not real good. And I think they've been doing pretty well, especially up the middle. You hear about Don Chaney breaking off these long runs up the middle in both the scrimmages. I mean, it seems like they're opening a lot of holes on the interior, which they should. You got Matt Lee, Javion Cohen, and Inez Cooper, who, 350 pounds just moving forward is going to move these guys. So, yeah, if they're not doing really well.
Against Gore and Dean, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, these guys are not getting tested the way they should, but you know what? They're getting lots of confidence.
All right, so here I am, feeling all good yesterday afternoon about what's going on out at the U and all this, and then the YouTube comments start coming in, and we've got the videos of these interview sessions. We've got them on our YouTube channel if you guys want to check them out. But the YouTube comments start coming in, and DemCanes01 posts on the YouTube comments about Jason Taylor. He says, I know his son is at LSU, but he needs to take that LSU wristband off. Now, I didn't notice that. Izubee, did you notice that Jason Taylor had an LSU wristband?
Yeah, so he has an LSU wristband and an Arizona wristband, and then his other child's name on a band. So it's just for his kids. He's just
so he's got kids playing in different places and stuff. But is he supposed to forget that just because he's coaching at the U? And do his players, could they care less what he's wearing on his wrist? I mean, here's a guy sacrificing his life. He is saying, I am going to coach the defensive line at Miami instead of going to the LSU games and seeing my son Mason play tight end for LSU. And I don't know, he's got a kid. I didn't even realize he had a kid at Arizona. But he's sacrificing all that. He's a dad who's not getting to go see his kids play. And is he supposed to take off these rubber wristbands off his wrist just because he's coaching D-line at the U? Izubee?
Yeah, no, I don't see anything, with that. Obviously, he's just, like you said, he's missing out on all his kids' stuff, watching his son play college football. So at least he could do is, have a piece of his son with him while he's with, the Hurricanes and all this other stuff for 17, 18 hours a day. So I see no problem in him, carrying something of his family when he looks down, when he's tired of the long day. Hey, this is who I'm doing it for, or anything like that. Just, hey, my family's with me at all times. So no problem in him repping his sons and his daughter as well.
None whatsoever. Come on, DemCanes, have a little heart, man. I mean, let Jason at least remember that he has those young kids playing football at different universities as he's walking around. I guess the Schwartz Center, it's still called over there, and at least for now, until they have to raise the 150 million to build the new facility, and all the names are going to change, I'm sure. But yes, I didn't have any problem with that either. All right, so all of that football coverage and more is on the website here still this morning. So if you haven't seen it yet, make sure you check it out. All right, moving on here. So I try to come up with great ideas from time to time. And I said, Izubee, I got a great idea for you. I said, the Canes are opening up slots. And guys have been going to the portal this week, the Canes basketball team, now I am speaking of. And they now have 4 open scholarships. Now, they got a young big guy named Michael Nwoko. He's going to fill one of them for sure. And he's a good-looking kid, and we'll talk more about him down the road. Our sources are telling us that a second scholarship is being held for a second high school kid. So there'll be 2 of them coming, two young guys coming in this class. But that means there's 2 openings right now for kids in the transfer portal, and that's if nobody else goes. Okay, so this is an unbelievable opportunity for Jim Larrañaga because Isaiah Wong is in the process of evaluating whether he's coming back. I think he's strongly leaning towards coming back. I think there's a great chance he comes back. They are going to have a super team next year that, with these new guys factored in and 2 studs out of the transfer portal, they are going to be one of the preseason favorites, not just to win the ACC, but to compete for the national title. Okay, and that's just a rare opportunity that you have a chance to put a generational team like this together. I think there's a great chance Wong comes back with Pack and O'Meara to form the foundation of that, and with Poplar, who hopefully next postseason will have enough confidence in his game that he will make those outside jumpers that they were giving him the other day in Houston, that he went 0 for 7 and didn't make them. So they're going to have a good core coming back. And now they got the transfer portal. So I said, Izubee, we got to take a look at what's in the transfer portal. Izubee did the usual spectacular job that he does. And so, Izubee, I'm gonna throw it over to you now and tell us, after taking a look at those guys in the transfer portal, and after us going through the exercise of trying to identify who might be the best fits for the Miami Hurricanes, how much help is Jim Larrañaga? Does he have a chance to get out of the transfer portal this year?
Yeah, with Coach Larrañaga, it's like a kid walking into a candy store with all these big names in the transfer portal. You have, guys leaving Power 5 schools that were in the tournament making deep runs. You have McDonald's All-Americans. I think it's 6 or 7 McDonald's All-Americans from last year in the transfer portal. But from what I did, the research I did, the guy that stands out to me the most is kind of like a name no one knows. I would have called him the best kept secret in America. But there's 80 schools that have reached out to this kid from Nova Southeastern. His name is Jonathan Pierre. He's a 6'8" wing/guard. Led the Sharks to a 36-0 record last season, a Division II national championship. And when I tell you, this kid is the perfect fit, in my opinion, to come in and replace Jordan Miller. Like I mentioned, 6'8". I think last year Jordan averaged 15 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Pierre averaged 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists, 50% from the field and 40% from behind the arc. 6'8", like I mentioned, really long guy, South Florida native, graduated from Hallandale Beach High School, right around the corner from the University of Miami. So I feel like this guy should be at the top of Miami's transfer target list to come in and fill that position that Jordan Miller left. There's also plenty of other names on that list. I think Miami should go after kind of another big, I wouldn't say a true big guy, but kind of a stretch 4 to play along Norchad O'Meara. I feel like having 2 dominant big guys in the paint like that won't be the best for how Jim Larrañaga likes to run his offense. We know he's an up and down type of guy. So I feel like finding a nice stretch 4 that'll come in, kind of take Jordan Miller's spot that can also rebound. I feel like Pierre is that guy. If you name that you guys aren't familiar with, make sure to check out Jonathan Pierre, Nova Southeastern. So out of all the guys, McDonald's All-Americans, former 5 stars, I feel like this unranked Division II prospect, Jonathan Pierre, is one of the best fits and biggest targets for Miami in this transfer portal coming up.
And we've got video of Pierre with that story, video really of all the guys that we identify as potential fits for Miami. We've got video of all of them that you guys can check out when you read that story. So hope you guys enjoy that. this morning, and pay particular attention to the center from Michigan. He's another one, Hunter Dickinson. Man, if I can get Pierre and Dickinson, I'm done, man. I am done. I am not going to get greedy. I think if they can somehow, and I don't know that Dickinson's going to be interested. I do think Pierre should be interested. He's from South Florida, played at Nova Southeastern. I'll be stunned if he doesn't end up at Miami. It makes total sense for them to go after him and for him to be interested. And if I can get him and a good big guy like Dickinson, I'm done. I'm good. I am going after the Natty next season, no doubt about it. But make sure you guys check out that story this morning. Okay, beyond that, we've got just the constant steady flow of recruits coming through Coral Gables every day. There was a whole lineup of them yesterday. There's more coming this weekend. Izubee, you're running point along with Stephen Wagner on talking to a lot of these kids. What kind of impression do you feel you're getting right now from these recruits that are flowing through campus?
The biggest thing I'm taking away from talking to these guys are they're just saying, hey, we see a difference from last spring to this spring. I know I spoke with St. Thomas Aquinas running back Jordan Lau. He was saying he was at the Miami spring game last year. He said walked into practice, this is a completely different team. And that's kind of the energy and the message that I get from all these kids after saying, hey, what really stands out to you? And he says the intensity in practice, how they're moving really fluid. No one's walking, everyone's fast paced, everything's like that. So kind of the biggest thing is kids are seeing the difference in what Mario Cristobal is doing in that program. And that's really what is catching their eye. Also, just a consistent, love that Miami's showing, having these guys on campus. I feel like this is really, really big for Miami. You feel like every day there's, 5 or 6 really big guys that Miami's having on campus from out of state, from in-state. So Miami just getting these kids on campus is something that's really, really standing out to me. And I feel like that's going to really, really benefit them down the road in June and July when these kids are saying, hey, should I take an official visit here? I've already unofficial visit here to Miami. I like what I saw. Let me go ahead and lock in this official visit. So just the constant flow of top guys coming through Miami, something that I really, really like that Mario Cristobal is doing this spring.
All right, so we got coverage on a bunch of those guys, and that'll continue coming at you every single day. Another story that I didn't mention earlier that kind of applies to what we were talking about with guys missing spring practice is we also take a look at how the depth chart could get a fall shakeup with the missing personnel in action returning for fall camp. So make sure you check that story out as well. All right, if you like this show, you like our YouTube channel, hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. It helps us with the crazy algorithms at YouTube, grow our audience. We really appreciate that. And more so than anything, if you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please, please, please come along, jump on board. We need every one of you. Your subscriptions allows us to do what we do every day and continue to expand the coverage that we supply to the Canes Nation to help everybody just kind of fulfill and maximize their fan experience. So for Matt Shodell and Izubee Charles, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.